good, everybody? It's your girl Toya, host of Universal Teas, the People's Podcast, and this episode is called CDC: Clarity, Direction, and Courage. So, the way in which I came up with this episode is literally within my own life. I've been in a very awakening space. I've been in a space where I have been taking feedback, taking accountability. I'm coming into a space where I really have had to look within myself, and I really have had to kind of be a big girl, if you will. I've had to stare my BS in the eye and kind of address it and figure out what it means and what it feels like. I've had to accept the fact that there are some things about myself that I need to change and adjust, and there are some actionable steps that I need to take that I didn't feel like I needed to take before. And I'm also seeing that in my life recently, the effect on both myself, relationships that I have, and people around me, the way that those are also being affected by some of the decisions that I've made and just some of the ways that I'm moving into the world. And so I'm realizing that I've had to take a hard look at myself. And it's been very uncomfortable, child. So if you ain't heard from me, you ain't seen me, just know I've been doing the work. And I'm also realizing the reward that is in it and knowing that working on yourself is never a punishment. And I think that's a word in itself. We sometimes shy away from doing the work on ourselves or acknowledging the things about ourselves that may be uncomfortable because we feel like the work is not going to be fulfilling. But anytime you are working on you, the reward will always come. You feel me? Even through that discomfort, and growing pains are a real thing. So as you are growing and learning yourself, even the things that you don't love about yourself, even the things that you see and you don't like, or somebody else expresses that they don't like, or something when somebody else expresses things that they're uncomfortable with, take it, listen to it, filter it as you must, because sometimes people information be BS. But be aware, and with that awareness has to come action. Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna get right into it. Now, there are three words in this episode. It's called clarity, direction, and courage. And in this journey, or in this phase of my journey of bettering myself and just becoming the best person that I can be, starting to love myself for more and giving myself the permission to make mistakes, I'm realizing that I have to go through these three phases. So I prayed one night, and the words that came to me were CDC: clarity, direction, and courage. And I think the three of these work in tandem, because we first have to clearly see things and understand what they are, and then we have to be able to take direction for them, and then we have to have the courage to see that direction through, because it may not be what we typically want to do. It may not be what we typically want to see. We may see some things within ourselves that we may not even want to accept to be true about who we are in that moment, but you have to get through, right? You have to get to it to get through it. You have to get to the parts of you that you may not be comfortable or happy with in order to get through the things that you're feeling right now, okay? And so the first word, courage, I actually have the definition, because y'all know I have a definition. And the first word is actually clarity, child. I don't know where. I didn't jump right to the end. I'm trying to get y'all out of here early. But the word clarity is the quality of being coherent or intelligible. And so when we talk about being clear on something, the word coherent means logical. It just makes sense in the physical world. So if you are seeking clarity, you are simply seeking what is true, what is logical about the world. And to also have clarity is to be understood. Okay? And the first thing that comes up for me when I think about clarity, when I think about understanding, is that they're not the same thing, right? Clarity is an act or a practice of understanding something. Just because you see something, to have clarity means that it's clear and it's very apparent, it's logical, it's black and it's white, it is or it isn't. And one thing that I noticed that I'm starting to be clear on is some of the negative traits that I have. We walk around and we find it so easy to blame other people for things that we experience. We find it so easy to name like what somebody did to us, when really somebody probably didn't do something to you. It probably made you feel a way, but they didn't do anything. And so you have to learn to be clear on what is and what is not. Okay? And we have to understand that just because you see something clearly does not mean you understand it. You have to get to that point of understanding, and understanding comes directly after being clear about something. Okay? So when we talk about clarity, you have to know that just because you see it doesn't mean that you'll fully understand it. And in clarity, when we are not clear, so we can talk about what being clear means. So I see that this person is absent from my life. I see that this person is actually grinding and going hard in their life, but you may not fully understand the why. You can see something in someone, but you don't understand it until you really get in there, until you really seek to understand. And seeking means to go and search and find. So we can make assumption. And that leads me to the point of, just because you are clear and you can clearly see what something is, you don't understand it. And when you're not clear on something, or things are uncomfortable, because we get clear on good things and bad things. And so when we start to get clarity about things that make us uncomfortable, especially within ourselves, and this is what I can name, because y'all know I don't got no problem telling my own business, but I'm starting to get clear on some things about me that aren't particularly favorable. And so I have to understand that I start to create things that make me feel better about the things that are not necessarily true, or are not necessarily in my scope of awareness. And I think when you sit down and you seek clarity, that's so vital, because when you're not clear on what something is or what it is not, then that gives you so much room to create a false reality. You know what I mean? And so I think that's something that I've seen myself doing. I don't know if it's just me, but it kind of softens the blow of what is logical, right? And we know being clear means logical. Creating these scenarios and creating things that kind of make us feel comfortable, even though we know what is true and what is not. That is what happens when you are not really sitting in and fully developing and understanding your clarity and your awareness of yourself and the situations around you, right? Especially, I'm thinking about like relationships. You can be like, this relationship doesn't feel good, but I'm not gonna take the time to get clear on why. So I'm gonna just create this scenario to make it justifiable to me. It's like, no, boo, that's not how that situation goes, because now you're just justifying your own bullshit, and you're not really taking the time to analyze what it is and what it is not. You're creating something that's just gonna make you feel good. And remember, when we're growing, when we're changing, when we're developing ourselves, growth doesn't happen in comfortable spaces. They say all the time, success lies on the other side of fear. And I think being afraid is one of the things that we have to understand takes over. Fear is something that's very challenging to see. It's very challenging to name, but it's also important. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later. So I think having that clarity and that awareness for who you are and what's going on in your life, who other people are. And I know this is a prayer that I've had for a while. So when I'm writing or I'm journaling, I always say, God, please show me who I am, and show me who everyone around me is. Show me what every relationship truly is, so that I'm not creating, right? And I think the catalyst for those thoughts or that prayer has always been emotions. And I say all the time, I don't know about y'all, but I'm a very emotionally forward person. So I'll feel a feeling, I'll feel a way, as we like to say, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that feeling is backed by something logical. And so I always make the prayer of like, please show me who I am, so that I can know what to do after this. Please show me who everyone is around me is, so I can know how to categorize them. Please show me what these emotions really are, so that I can actually address them by who they are. Think about it like this. So we all got nicknames, right? Think about if you never knew your real name and everybody else did. Everybody is clear on who you are except for you. So that's just like somebody saying, let's say your real name is Tasha, but you used to going by Pookie. Every time somebody says Tasha, you're not acknowledging that, because you're not clear on who it is that you are. So having clarity about things and being able to name what it is, that is imperative. And we sometimes think that being clear just means sitting in what feels good. Sometimes you can get clear on parts of you that are not good. And I took a look within myself. And when you really sit with the parts of yourself, when you really get to know yourself, you're going to pull out some things. And if you're doing it right and with intention, you're going to pull out some parts of you that are uncomfortable to admit. You're going to pull out some things when you look deep within yourself that you may be disappointed in yourself for being, or have been, right? Because we grow through these things. When you look within yourself, you might be disappointed. You might be ashamed. You might be hurt. You might be envious. And you have to be able to name that with confidence, so that you can address it. Because a lot of the times when we have negative emotions, we name it as, I'm irritated. When you're not really irritated, you're actually hurt. We say, oh, I'm pissed off. You're not really pissed off. You're just embarrassed. So being able to go deep within yourself and find those things about you that you're not clear on, find those things about you that are triggering these emotions, being able to name what they are so that you can better address them is going to be really important in this. So just because being clear, it's like, okay, I'm clear that I messed up. It's like, no, what part of you actually is messed up? I did this wrong. Why? Get clear. So being clear is not just seeing through something. It's taking that next step, that immediate next step, which is in the definition of clarity, is understanding. So being aware, I think awareness and clarity are kind of like sisters, if you will. But having clarity on something doesn't mean that you are looking for the good. When I pray and I ask God, like, show me who I am, I'm not putting parameters on it. I'm not saying show me the good things about myself. That can be one thing, but you're never going to grow by just looking at the good. You grow when things are uncomfortable. You grow when things are messed up. You don't know you need to change. You can't really develop if it's never dark first. Think about Polaroid pictures. They develop from darkness. So you have to be able to have the bandwidth and the confidence to be able to look at the ugly parts of yourself and not stay stuck within them. And that's something that I'm learning for myself, is that just because I found this flaw in my character trait, one, I'm human. You're not perfect. You're not always going to be good for yourself. You're not always going to be good for people. You're not always going to do and say the right things. But you have to be able to have the confidence and the courage enough to say, show me who I am, the good, the bad, the ugly, so that I can fix them. Because just looking at the good things for you ain't going to do much for your growth. If anything, it's going to make you stay stagnant because you're focusing on what you're good at. You're not becoming better. Okay? The next point, when we talk about direction, so now I'm starting to notice that I'm being opened up and aware and clear on a lot of things about myself and the situations that I'm in. I'm being clear about job opportunities. I'm being clear about the types of relationship. I'm even being exposed to things that I see in people and it's directed towards me. I'm being made very clear of everything that's happening around me. And now when you figure out the things, and for me, it's the negative things, because I'm very committed to fixing what is wrong with me. I'm very committed to fixing the things that are not great. I'm very committed to bettering myself. Excuse me. And so now that I have clarity, I need direction. I see what it is. Now I need to know what to do with it. So a part of that prayer is, God, give me clarity to see who I am and everyone around me, and then give me the directions for how to fix it. Give me the directions on what to do with the good things. Can I set them aside? Do I make those the catalyst for the negative things? And then what do I do with the negative things? How do I move in this? And so when I talk about the word direction, that definition is the management or guidance of someone or something. And the word guidance in that definition is what stuck out to me, because guidance is information that's aimed to resolve a problem. So if you are given direction, if you are being given a blueprint, because when we think of direction, it's like turn right, turn left. When you get lost and you ask someone for directions, you are solving a problem. The problem is that you're lost. And a lot of us are lost in a lot more than cars. We're lost in a lot more than left, right directions. We're lost within ourselves. We're lost in the world. So when you start to seek direction, you are getting guidance for a problem. But you first have to be clear on what the problem is. That's why clarity has to go before direction. And you have no say-so. And I know, again, y'all, I be telling my business, when you talk about direction, we try to make up the directions. Like, oh, well, yeah, I know I made my friend mad. I know I made my sister mad, but now she got to come talk to me. Like, you don't get to make the directions. Directions are guidances, meaning they are management or information that's given to you. So when you're taking direction, or when you're getting the directions on the things that are clear, especially those negative and those things that are uncomfortable for you to admit about yourself, you are now going to be given directions. And that can be having a conversation is the direction. That can be leaving the job that you're comfortable with is the direction. You don't get to make the direction. You're just presented with it. It's information to solve the problem. You've acknowledged and got clear on the fact that there's a problem, and now you are being presented with the directions to solve it. You know? And so when I also think about direction, though, you have to be open. So once you're clear about something and you're given direction, you have to be open to whatever that looks like. I know I hear a lot of church folks say, like, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. Because you're going to get direction. This is going to be clear. You got to do this, this, and that. You got to have that conversation. You got to leave that job. You got to leave that relationship. You got to leave your baby daddy. You got to leave your baby mama. You got to leave that city. You got to leave that town. You got to tell people what it is and stop asking for acceptance. You're going to have to do things that are uncomfortable. And so the directions may not be clear. You may just get the first set of directions. And it's like, I want the whole map. And it's like, no. Think about when you on a GPS. They don't lay out all the instructions. You get turn-by-turn directions. And so when you are being directed to be better, you have to understand that it's also a faith walk. You have to just take the first direction. The first thing I told you to do is pick up the phone. The second thing I told you to do is type this text. The third thing I told you to do is make this appointment. And so when you are taking direction, it also is a faith walk. Because being directed is just being given information. It's not being given the whole blueprint. It's not being given the whole playbook. So taking direction is a faith walk. You know, and you just got to be able to take the first step so that you can get to where you want to go. And you have to be able to take a back seat to it. So a lot of us want to be high and mighty. We want to have our hands in everything. We want to have a say-so in everything. We want to be in charge of everything. But taking direction is simply that. It is taking. Right? Direction is given to you. You have to be the one to take it. It's presented to you. You have to be the one to take it. And you have to, the way that I feel like you can find confidence in taking direction that is presented to you is if you are already comfortable in the clarity that you've received. I am clear that this is something I need to work on. So now I am very confident in taking these directions to do that. So taking direction, you also have to be very in tune with the why that you're doing something. So this job is no longer serving me. I'm not going to come back. But the reason why is because of this. So now what directions do I need to take? What fields do I need to be in? What do I need to be doing? Who do I need to be talking to? What conversations do I need to have? And that's going to be presented to you. And this leads into the C, the second C, because we're talking CDC, is courage. And this one, y'all, to be completely honest, and I was just having a conversation about this today, is probably the most difficult for me. I don't know about y'all, but having the courage to take the directions that you had no part in, because remember, you don't get to make the directions. It's just up to you to follow them. And so being courageous enough to say, this is uncomfortable. I have to put my guard down. I have to put my cards down and follow these directions, not really knowing where they're necessarily going to lead me. It takes courage. And so I'm thinking when difficult conversations, this is a conversation I had a little bit earlier today, was about having difficult conversations. There's a little bit of fear. There's a little bit of anxiety there. There's a little bit of uncertainty there, because just because you have a difficult conversation, and this is something I had to learn the hard way, just because you exhibit the courage to have a difficult conversation, that doesn't mean that conversation is going to turn out how you planned, how you expected it to. You have no say-so over how somebody receives the information you give them. And you have to realize that following those directions and practicing that courage to do what is difficult and uncomfortable has to be for you. It has to be to fulfill you. It's not necessarily about that person or that thing or that job or that situation or that business deal. Having the courage to do what is uncomfortable has to be about you. Because if you start to make all the things that you do about someone else, you now lose the power to fulfill yourself. And if you are never self-fulfilled, I don't care how many jobs you get, how much money you make, how many businesses you own, how many encouraging talks you can give. If you don't have that within yourself, you're never going to be fulfilled. And now you're just in this cycle of nothingness, of disengaging yourself from things. You are now in confusion. Listen, if you're not clear, if you don't have the courage to do what you need to do for you, everything is just going to seem worthless. And it doesn't matter how much someone else encourages you. You need to have courage within yourself to see those things through. Okay? And when it comes to courage, I think it's also important to know and understand that courage isn't always going to be consistent. And the definition of courage is the ability to do something that frightens you. And I know for a fact that I don't have to break down that definition, but having courage is doing something that frightens you. It's simple. You're afraid to have this conversation. You're afraid to let these people know that thing. You're afraid to leave this job. You're afraid to live in a new city. Have the courage to do it anyway. Having courage means doing what is scary to you, doing what is frightening to you, because you're simply following the directions that are going to get you to where you want to go. And a lot of this, when I've been thinking through this clarity, like I've been sitting on this for almost the whole week. And so when I think about clarity, direction, and courage, I think that they all flow into each other. Like you can't have one without the other, because if I do something that scares me and I'm not clear on why I'm doing it, I'm not even going to really understand, or I could be moving wrong. And then if I don't consult the directions, if I don't know what it should look like, you know? And so having courage in yourself also means that you have confidence in what it is that you're doing. You have confidence in why you're doing the things that you're doing. So you really have to, and this is something that I'm going to live by or live in for a while right now, because in my own life, I'm practicing accepting the clarity, accepting the things that are presented to and made clear to me, specifically about myself, because I'm on a self-healing journey and a self-awareness journey. So I have to be open to the directions that I'm given, you know, or I'm just going to always be in this cycle of discomfort. And once you get the courage to do the thing that frightens you, you are now, that's a weight off your back. Because once you face your fears, they no longer exist. And so if you're constantly sitting in this fear and this wondering, and you rocking back and forth, wonder you should jump in or go ahead and do it now. Once you've been made clear, you see what it is, you see what it's not. You see what you're good at, you see what you're not. You see the parts of you that you love, and you see the parts of you that you know you need to work on, and you're trying to mask with things that you're creating within your own mind. No. Be clear on what that really is. Stop masking blanket emotions. Stop saying that you just pissed off. Just stop saying that you don't like somebody. Stop saying that you don't like something when it's really things within you that you don't like. You don't like the way that you feel about certain things, and you need to get into why. You need to be made clear on that. Ask for clarity. And don't try to put parameters on what is made clear to you. You have to accept it. You don't have to hold. And this is the thing, too. We may feel like once we are clear on something that we don't like, that is negative, that makes us uncomfortable, we feel like we have to hold on to it. And I did that for a while. I would be made clear of some things that maybe I did that was wrong or I feel bad about. And I felt like just because it was made clear to me that I fucked up a situation, or that I messed up something, or that I did something or said something wrong, I felt like I had to hold on to that. Accepting something and holding on to it do not have to coexist. Just because I accept something doesn't mean I have to hold on. I know y'all have heard plenty times before. Just because I accept the fact that you did me wrong doesn't mean I have to stay with you. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean we still have to be in conjunction with each other. So understand that just because you see something doesn't mean, not that you see something, when you acknowledge something for what it is, especially negative, you don't have to hold on to that. Because I'm in a phase now where it's like, yo, if I've forgiven myself for something, if I've gotten through something and over something and now I'm done with it, it's not my fault who else still holds on to it. That's now their problem. I let it go. And you can support, you can love people who are in that stage, and you know, I'm here for you, but that's no longer how I'm ascribing to something. So you have to know that you have to make sure that the things that you are clear about are specific to you. Just because you see something for what it is, everybody else won't. And it's not your job to convince them. It's not your job to convince somebody that you're different, or this is actually what it is, or now I know that in this stage of my life I was this and now I'm not. It's not your job to convince them. It's just your job to now operate in your truth, knowing that your truth changed. Okay? And that's something that I have to remind myself too, is you don't have to hold on to the negative things that you're made clear on. Hell, you don't even have to hold on to the positive things, because those can change and develop and grow. Okay? When you get directions, you don't have a say so. You have to be open. So another thing, you don't get to decide how things are presented to you. You don't get to decide how God is going to show up for you. If you ask for direction and he tells you you need to do this, you don't get to say, well, actually, it's not a negotiation. When you're given direction and guidance and information to help solve a problem, it's not a negotiation. Either you're ready to do that or you're not. Either you're ready to take that direction, or you just still getting clarity on what it even means. But you have to understand that you have to take your hands off a little bit when you get direction. And being courageous enough to follow those directions is a huge step, because it's what you're afraid of. Being courageous means addressing and facing things that you are afraid of and getting through it. But you have to know and understand that in order to get through it, you got to get to it. So you have to find the courage, and courage is a development. It doesn't happen overnight. Once you get directions and once you're clear on what needs to be done, the next day, a lot of us, I don't know, maybe it's just me, we're not just going to jump out of bed the next day. I got to sit on that thing, okay? I got to sit on it and feel it and figure it out. And sometimes I go back and forth like, are you sure this is what you want me to do? Are you sure this is how this needs to go down? And so once you've done that for yourself and you have the courage, you got to know, like, I'm not going to get this feeling up off me until I do this thing. And you have to understand that you're being courageous for yourself. It's not about how other people are going to feel. Other people's perception ain't got shit to do with you. It's not about how they're going to take it. It's about what you're going to get relief from when you express yourself. So we have to take away from filtering other people's emotions into the things that we need to do for ourselves, okay? So if you are anything like me and you are in a space of self-discovery, self-empowerment, self-awareness, awareness, that word has been coming to me so much lately. If you are in a stage of awareness, you need to understand the steps to get to the other side, to relieve yourself, to get that monkey off your back. You have to first seek clarity. You have to first be clear on what is and what is not. You have to understand that just because something is made clear, you may not fully understand and know what the ins and outs of it are. Being clear is just logical. It's just what exists and what does not. And sometimes that is so uncomfortable. And knowing that being clear, you're going to be presented with some things that are not good. Being clear doesn't mean, God, show me how good I am. You genuinely have to lay everything out and say, just show me what I am. Good, bad, ugly. Okay? And now that I know who I am, show me what to do with this. Give me direction. Okay? And lastly, once you have been given those directions, you need to gain and develop the courage to see them through. Okay? So with that being said, I know it's not Tuesday, but I'm going to be getting these live episodes in where I fit in. So making sure that you are subscribed on all podcast streaming platforms, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Go and check out Universal Tees TV on YouTube to catch up on some past episodes, and share this video wherever you are. And let me know in the comment section where you're listening from, because I do have some international listeners. What I'm about to say? International listeners out there. So if you are listening from somewhere internationally or another country other than the States, please let me know. I would love to shout you out, okay? And with that being said, be gentle with yourself, and I hope to see y'all this Saturday from 12 to 4, Universal Tees live and in person. The conversation is called Beautiful Bridges. I can't wait to see y'all there. Bye.